that it's everything or nothing, or it's based on per product, rather than what the user will see. Some companies might say everything except help manuals, or everything except the physical manuals, or the product brochures, or the packaging, or whatever the case may be. But that usually it still is the product that usually takes the biggest amount of time, including review time and things like that. So that's just some ideas of things that are easy to do. GTK is a base library with a lot of strings that are reused in many of the applications. It's also used by a lot of Windows programs like GIMP, the graphics editor, Pigeon, the chat program, and others. I'm sure there are lots, I just don't know because I don't really use Windows. And yes, we can reuse the translations through translation memory, but there's always an overhead in translating with translation memory and submitting it somewhere and engaging with a new software project. And these are some of the things that we've done. If you have a look, this is a piece of software we wrote, the translation tool. You can see the menus at the top. It says File, Edit, View, Navigation, and Help. And you can see that everything that has an icon, basically, so oversimplifying, but is not translated as part of the application. It's used by the libraries. Open, save as, quit, undo, cut, copy, paste, references, and then up, down. Those are also coming from the library. And then about. And even on some of these screens, like the about screen, you will see that these buttons, like credits, license, and close, those will also be coming from the library. And if I go look at the text editor, you will see that it's mostly the same as well, because this is a standard way that the programmers can reuse the library to build their applications. So, okay, now I'm running this one in Afrikaans, so the button is translated. But that only needs to be happening once. And if we're talking about languages that will never be able to translate the whole desktop, this is a way to make a very good start and to change people's minds and hopefully build a community of people that will collaborate. Well, thank you. That is what I wanted to show. Anybody going to use the project install? Yes?
So is that program open source that could be used for any application? Your program?
For the translation work?
Yeah.
Yes. The previous session, I spent some time showing that. I can show that to you again afterwards a bit if you're interested. This, the translation program that I showed the file in, this one,
yes.
Is that what you're talking about? Yes, this is a file that, an application that we developed in South Africa. It is freely available. It runs on Windows and Linux systems. We intend it to be easy to use and to help especially inexperienced translators follow good translation practice, such as reuse of translations through translation memory, the use of terminology lists, and we are now working on ensuring and building in some quality assurance techniques into the software, but really it's sponsored as a part of our initiative in Africa to train people and help people to reach new languages in technology. So it's our aim that it's quite easy to use, and obviously it's freely available, barring internet costs to get it, and we would encourage anybody to distribute it by any other means as well, and it would be legally, that's the license under which the software is released. So if you're interested afterwards, I can show you some more. The application is called Vertaal, which can be written with a pen, if you have a pen. That's the way it's written.
What kind of files can it take? IO?
It can open PO files, it can open XLib files, it can open TMX files, it can open TBX files, it can open TS files, which is mostly used for software localization.
The TMX editor, that one's relevant.
Sorry?
Because most other tools don't help you there.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I mean, lots of tools support TMX, but you usually can't edit through TM. And you can with Vertaal. You just open the TMX file and you can improve the quality of your translation memory if you would like to. I mean, sort of just have, it's the way it works. The TS format is used by, let's think of a well-known example, Skype. As far as I know, it's translated using that. Opera uses the same technology, but they actually use a different format, the Opera web browser.
Somehow connected to the
Qt framework, yes. It's the native format of the Qt framework. Let me just see if I'm leaving out any other formats. Very soon we'll just be connecting it with our file converters, because we've got converters for many formats like text and open document formats and so on, but there you can see it supports MO, PO, Qt Linguists, Qt Phrasebook, QM files, TVX, TMX, and you can also open Word fast translation memory files. Oh, and XLIF, as I mentioned earlier. XLIF is a bit of a beast.
What terms?
I don't think I've met anybody, no, I probably have met a few people, but that actually have read through the whole specification. And it's a very difficult file format to support in its entirety, and as soon as you've really engaged yourself in it, you realize that it's ambiguous in many ways. And to support the format basically means to support some dialect of the format to some extent. So even now the upcoming version of Trados, which is already released, has introduced what do they call it? Something like SDL XLIF or something like that, which means it's XLIF, but it's their flavor of XLIF. So we are. Sorry.
Yeah, like always.
Well,
The
TMX files are a bit weird as well. They put in special character codes
I don't know.
that break the format slightly.
I don't know.
Transport Trados translation memories is not so easy.
Yes, but so it's just it's a very complex, it's a very rich format, I would say. I don't want to shoot it down. We are doing our bit to try to promote it in the world of free and open source software, but at this stage there are indications that it won't save the world this month. It's very complex. It can represent very interesting data like your workflow information in a very big team. It can embed translation memory, it can embed terminology, it can embed machine translation and distinguish it from your translation memory. It's an extremely complex format, and we don't support all of its features by any means, but I also don't know of any XLIF editor at this stage that does. It has support for a rich text representation, so that, are you familiar with placeables? So variables can be marked up and their attributes can be explained, like can they be reduplicated or not, and like can they be reordered, and some support for that, which is not in the text itself. And I can show you later how we are dealing with that, but as far as I know, very few editors, some XLIF editors don't even support that yet, or it doesn't make it easy for a translator to actually manipulate them in a very productive way, or it doesn't present all of the information, such as, you see this is some special placeholder and it's marked in the format as being reduplicatable. In other words, you can have two occurrences of it. For example, if something is marked bold, you can have two parts in the translation that is bold. But I don't know how all the tools portray that and make it easy for a plain translator who's just doing this for the love of it late at night, which is really what we are aiming for mostly. So we support XLIF and we believe it's interesting for many of its properties, but in the world of free software it hasn't taken off that much, simply because it provides a lot of features that are not that interesting to most people at the moment. But yes, it supports it to some extent. If you have something to try it out with, I'd like to hear what you think about it.
No, I was just thinking, recently I heard that Adobe had actually developed an XLIF filter for Flash, and I studied translation 5 years ago. Localizing Flash was a pain. Having a tool that can work on XLIF would make the whole workflow much easier.
Yes.
With that filter, you just go from Flash to XLIF, then you translate with your tool in XLIF, and just use the same filter to bring again the translated text into the Flash file.
Definitely. And I mean, you're not bound into this specific tool. I mean, there are several that support XLIF.
Yeah.
And if one supports your language better, or you just prefer it, or it's the one you have, or it's the one that runs on your operating system, then it makes it possible.
Yeah, it's actually more important that people like Adobe bring in these filters than actually...
Well, it depends on what your goals are. You see, there's a whole industry built on not making it that easy. So people have conflicting goals. Sorry, I don't know if I'm giving offense to anybody here. I don't know what a lot of you are busy doing.
It's non-commercial practice.
But yeah, I mean, things like Trados lives on the stranglehold they have on the market, and we know that it's the same with Office productivity suites and something like Oracle databases and so on. it's a good